Parshas Pinchas in Chutz Loretz Bullock. Last week we started the topic of jobs, Parnassa. How does a person choose what career, which umnus to do in order to be able to have Parnassa? Now we learned some rules. The Choves HaLevavos sets certain rules so a person could know and overall what the do's and the don'ts. Today we'll speak about a specific mistake that some young people do, and let's elaborate and see why is it such a terrible mistake and how people could save themselves from ruining, if it's most of their life or 20, 30 years of their life. How could they save themselves? So you have young people that they're looking to earn money. Now nobody wants to in today's days know that they're going to be getting, if it's a few hundred dollars a week. People want to make nice money. They don't want to have to work for someone else and wait for the paycheck, and by the time it hits the bank there's nothing left. People always have the feeling, if I'm already working hard, sweating, giving away all my koiches, I want to be a successful person. Especially when people watch others and they see they learned with others in yeshiva, and I'm better off than them, I'm smarter than them, and I'm more capable. And if that person, which I remember from yeshiva, and I don't want to say what I know about him, if he could be so successful, and what did he do already? He opened up a business, I want to open up a business. So one of the mistakes that people do is in order to open a business, you need to come up with some cash. And many times it doesn't feel that it's very off, that it's off. Why is that? Because it's very common, and in the whole world people know that in order to open your business you need someone to help you. You need to invest the first $100,000, which is not so much opening up a business. Sometimes $500,000, sometimes more, 1.2. You buy off someone's business, and they show you with all the graphs and the charts that this is how much it makes a year. Within 3-4 years, you earn it right back, and then you have something, a real business, which you could really earn beautifully, and you know that you don't have to have such daigis, and you can have yeshiva das, and then you'll be able to sit and learn, and you'll do mitzvahs and give tzedakah. It doesn't always sound that it's that crazy. You start asking around people, and that's where it really gets complicated, because many times you ask the wrong people, and a lot of times the feedback that comes back is that it's a grab. I say, how much is he asking for the business? You want to buy off somebody else's business. So he's really asking for 2.3, but I could get him down for 2 million. I have the right people, the right connections. For 2 million, I could buy off the business. So you ask the senior man, so you have the 2 million? He says, no. So what's your plan? He says, well, someone told me that you could do this, you could do that, and I could write a mortgage in somebody else's name or somebody else's apartment, and this and the bank. All kinds of funny mahalchim. Now, like we said before, you'll ask people on the street, they might tell you that 2 million is a good price, a very, very good price to buy off such a business, which is, it's up and running. You could see it, it's open. No? Yeah. I think we're going to go in, let's do it together. So you get the feeling that, listen, I'm young. I'm not going to do this when I'm 50. You have to do it when you're young and you still have the energy. You still have time until expenses start growing, and you start making cheshbonos. If you could pull the things, if you could pull all the parts together, and more than that, you have other yoyatzim advisors that say, listen, if there's no risk, sikun and sikui. If you don't have a risk, you can't make money. You have to jump in. If you're always going to be so, how do they call it? Conservative. Then you can't make money. You won't be able to own an apartment. You won't be able to really make it out. You have to jump in and have bitochen in the Rebbeinu, and then you'll know Hashem will help you. Met Hashem, He helped that one. You'll definitely be able to do it. You look like you're the type of person, you're really capable. So let's learn all the reasons why this is a very, very big mistake. Terrible mistake. Number one, we learned in Chovos Halevavos that the number one indicator for a person to see what type of job Hashem prepared for him, what He's designed to do in the Bria, is to see what kelim, what tools Hashem gave you. So the Chovos Halevavos speaks about birds, about having tall feet, having a long mouth, and the Chovos Halevavos says all the creations, whatever Hashem created in the world, were given exact tools to be able to have what they need. The same is by the person. The Chovos Halevavos speaks about the koiches haguf. Don't do something which you can't carry. If you're not physically strong enough, you could pick something that you don't have to schlep so strong. You don't have to do something because you were built differently. If you're more a mind person, then you should take such type of jobs which you're using your mind and thinking. And the same is the opposite. If you're not a type of person that enjoys straining the mind, so you feel you like to build, you like to like we spoke, so do that. The same concept, the Chovos Halevavos says that you need to see if you have the tools, is also with money. You need to see if you have the means, if you have the money, because it's the first indicator. We're not saying if you could be a chevreman, if you could be this, you could schlep and you could borrow, you could do crazy things. The question is, a person looks in the mirror and says, if Hashem would have prepared this Parnassa for me, then let me check. He calls the bank and he says, could you please tell me what's in the bank account? So they say, well, you have $45, but it's minus. You're $45. He says, do you think that Hashem prepared that you should be the one to do that? Especially people when they have choivos and they have $60,000, and then they have somebody else that they didn't really count in the reshima of the choivos, somebody else another 25. They don't really want to make a cheshbon how much they really owe. But then when they did it one nice day and it was like, nah, 220? I don't know, 220. It can't be. So they do it again and again. They say, yeah, I didn't think it's that bad. So then they think, okay, so now I really need to do something crazy. Now I really need, because by earning $500 a week, I'm not going to pay back this money. So I have to jump into something big, and then there's the profit. You're talking about big money, and then that's how I'm going to get out of the hole.
It's called the gambler's fallacy.
The gambler's fallacy. This way of thinking.
Thinks if he keeps going, he's finally going to win, and then
yeah, it's fascinating how it pulls the person. It pulls the person. If I just keep going, now it is going to work. Now I just have to take another 100,000 from here and from there and invest it and put it in, and now that'll fix it. That'll heal the process here that I'm stuck. So the number one why this is a huge mistake is because you don't have the money. And the fact that I have a plan how to come up with the money, that's not called having the money. Because the sign, that means the gather to see, do I have or don't I have, is this piece of Chovos Halevavos, that's where we're up to after Tzadik Verali, right in the end of Perek Shlishi. Look at the Baal Chai, look at the creature, look at it, it's born with it. Now, with money, you don't have to be born with it, but you have to already be in a massive that you have it. Or it doesn't always have to be that it's sitting in the bank. It doesn't have to be. Or because it's already sitting in the bank. So a person that has enough, they could do risky things, because even if they lose the money, they didn't Okay? You're allowed to lose money. It's not an aveda to lose money. Or a person who already has a job, a settled job, a real job, not something that you yesterday got the job. A real job that you, Baruch Hashem, earning, and you don't know that a person has no idea what the future is, but he sees Hashem put him in such a massive, and Baruch Hashem is being very successful, and it's already for a long time. So a person is allowed to see Hashem put me into this spot. But a person, let's say a person says, well, I have a very good idea. I'll take a night job. So they already take they go in almanaza. I'm going to take a night job, and my wife is going to bring in kach v'kach, and then Pesach usually this kimcha de Pesach, so they make this whole. Well, it's not here. You're not talking about things that are the current. You're talking about fantasy. You could be sure that it's not yours, and if you're going to do it, it's very painful. Because if a person went a different route, Hashem prepared a route of Parnassa. You want it so badly, something else, not a smart move because you're going on your own. So that's the number one. You could check if you have the means, and that's a sign from Hashem to see if Hashem lets you or Hashem chose something else.
And when he answers you, he says, my friend Shlomi did exactly that, and it must be, it was Bashirat, you should have that business.
He says people always say, but my friend did it without having the money. My friend did it without having the money. So this is the number one. I can't say number one. Number one mistake we spoke about. So let's call it the number two mistake. Number two mistake is that the Gemara says in Masechtes Pesachim, Shiva Dvorim Mechusim B'Bnei Adam. 7 things in the Bria, Shiva Dvorim, are hidden. Hashem doesn't let you see. It says Yoim HaMisa. Nobody knows how long they're going to be in this world. The Geula, when a person's Torah is going to finish. We once spoke about it when we spoke about Yisurim and Tsar. Rashi, it's a beautiful Rashi there about that topic. Rashi says, when the suffering is going to finish, there's a certain date. It's like a Geula. And we don't know when that Geula is going to come. But it has a date. But Hashem wanted that a person shouldn't know when that day is going to come. And one of the 7 mentioned in the Gemara Pesachim Daf Nun Daled is Ein Odom Yodeya Bameh Mistaker. A person cannot know what's going to bring them Parnassa. Very, very interesting. You can't know what's going to be the tziner, the vessel, the pipeline, the source of your Parnassa. If you look into that Gemara and you compare it to the others of the 7, you come to the understanding that it's designed that way that Hashem does not want you to know. It's a hidden. It's like Yom HaMisa. Everybody understands that it's bedafka. It's Hashem wanted that nobody should know, and they should keep on living with a certain achnoah, knowing they have to do tshuva. So a person cannot know what's going to be the source of their parnassa. So what is a person supposed to do? If you can't know what he's supposed to do, the only option a person has is to look into the Sefer, to look into the Chovos HaLevavos, to look in the Torah, and to follow rules, what you're supposed to do in such a matzav. If the person is trying to follow the success, the friend, then they're making a mistake, a fundamental mistake, that they think that they can figure it out. You can't figure it out. Why are you going there? Why are you running there? Because you feel if that guy made money, and I could be, I could have a handle on it. I could figure it out. I could make myself have parnassa. It's not true. It's mechusim b'bnei Adam. It's hidden. So a person doesn't have the option of following somebody else. If you follow, it's a lot of people that they follow. They're lost. If they're driving or whatever it is, so they're following the person that's lost. They're going, and then they find themselves in a dead end somewhere. It's not something they could ever follow. Even if you're doing the right thing, you can, because it's mechusim b'bnei Adam. That's another nakuda. A person has to know, if I want to be successful, I don't have any other option besides following the rules, because Hashem created the world, and Hashem is the one that gives parnassa, and He set up rules. Following a friend, especially the friend did something wrong and did something risky, it's not going to get you anywhere. Now you're saying that you see how successful he is. It's looking at a certain. Right now, while I'm talking, while we're discussing this, a picture of a younger man is in my mind, which he was very successful, and people wanted to follow him, and then within very, very short time, his whole business was knocked off. They say this joke. They say that a person went to Tel Aviv, and Tel Aviv is hot. Never, even in the winter, never snows in Tel Aviv. A person went to Tel Aviv and he opened up a store or whatever to skiing, snow skiing, all the sticks and the whatever. He said he opened up a big sign. After half a year, his friend asked him, "So how's his business going?" He says, "I don't know about myself, but on the two sides of me, another 2 stores opened up in the same for skiing." They saw, oh, that's a good Parnassa. Okay, here they are, without thinking how stupid it is. But it brings out the point that people who you're following, that person already figured out that it's nothing, and you're now on the stage of copying him. Now, number 3. Number 3 is from the Yesodis of Bitochen. Why this is such a big mistake. Whenever a person makes such a move, it is hidden behind the move that the person is trusting in the Siba, putting their Bitochen, putting their whole, there's a different word besides trusting. Relying. They're relying on the Siba. They're doing something crazy. So you ask them, you have no life. Like, your wife and children, and you don't sleep at night, and you're not enjoying anything in this world because you're so invested. I remember you. A year ago, you were this geschmacka guy, you came to shul, you davened so nicely, you went to work like a mensch. All of a sudden, there's no davening, there's no learning, there's no yeshivat das. What happened? He says, wait. He says, I decided I'm going to give it all I got, and is listening to this course, to this who knows what or whatever, that said you gotta kill yourself. Behind that is, why should a person kill himself in this world? It doesn't make sense. Enjoy life. So what's the answer hidden? Because the person is relying, listen, now it pays for me to give everything away. Because one day I'm going to be this big, rich man. Guys are going to be waiting by my door, and I'm going to... So they're relying on what they're doing, and that's going to give them their money. And they're telling Hashem, listen, we'll talk in a year. Now I'm kind of busy. I'm busy with 2 very important things. We have this iron klal. Whenever, no matter what, whenever a person relies on something, that on its own, that itself, that thought process of relying, kills away the abundance. It kills away the chef of Parnassa, even if it was the right thing. Sure. The Chavis was discussing it in length. He explains a person, if they're relying on Hashem, so they're connecting to the source of abundance, the source of Parnassa, and it could reach them. In the mind of a person, when a person starts relying, and sometimes it's relying on themselves because they feel that they're so smart, relying on others that told them, I'm telling you, do this, do that, relying on this type of job. People told them, listen, the medical field right now, it's booming. You have to see something, I don't care what. Even if you feel you're supposed to be a singer, you're supposed to, you just go to the medical field. No matter, that's the thing. Then you're relying on a certain Siba. That's the place where Parnassa comes from today's days. Nursing homes, you remember? Now it's not the same. Talk to the people in Chicago. But it was the Tkufa. You got to get your hands on the nursing homes. And it went, it's high-tech, it keeps on changing. People run from here to there. The Mishnah says that the Oisher doesn't come min umnus, not the Aniyas, not the Hashiras, comes from the umnus. What I'm doing, a person has to chazak, constantly remind themselves, that's not the source of the Parnassa. The source of the Parnassa has nothing to do with what I'm doing, zero. It has to do with me relying on Hashem and doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a slave, as a servant to Hashem, that I'm following orders, and then I could ask Hashem, I could rely on Hashem because I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It says, but Hashem wants you to do your duties. Person doesn't daven, so they have a problem. And the same is if a person doesn't go to work and doesn't give anything to the Bria, so there's an issue. You have to be doing something. But that's why you could have two people that have the exact same, you see it all the day. All day you see it. People that are two mortgage brokers, two insurance brokers, one is a booming business, the other one is scratching and trying and this, and it's not going. You can't say on any specific parnassa that every single person that goes into that line is going to be successful. You see, and even if you do all the right things, never listen to these courses that are saying, I'll tell you the reason. You come to me, guaranteed. I'm going to tell you just another few things you should lie about, and you should screw people up, and then you'll see how it works. No, it doesn't work like that. So this is the third mistake. When a person, we'll still see the positive side, what a person is supposed to do. But when a person does something crazy, he's not crazy. So why is he doing it? Why is he giving everything up? He's taking money from the whole world. He's going to have to pay back the money. And if he doesn't, he's definitely going to be screwed up. I don't know, he's going to sit in jail one day. Or even if it won't happen, it will be very not pleasant to all family members and all friends. And it's an avera. Why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? The answer is because the be'emus relying. People say, but what if it doesn't work out? You ever heard that question? But what if it doesn't? He says, no, I spoke to my advisor. He said it should be good. I heard. And if it doesn't? And if it doesn't? They won't answer you because they don't have an answer. I hope it's going to be good. I hope for the best. The answer is that they're relying on something that's not Hashem. And the biggest raya is because if they would reach out to Hashem, Hashem has different plans for you. Why do you do such risky things? So risky, even when people are successful, but doing something risky is very not is not the Ratzon Hashem most of the time. Vast majority of the times, the risky, if it's really bemis risky, it's not the Ratzon. You don't do such things. It's a sakona. You can't do an matzah from a sakona. They say that the Briskerov in the city of Bristol is a big fire. And in those days, everything was wood. And not only in those days, today's days also. Different parts of the world, everything is. But in those days, they didn't have the whole fire department. And so if it was a fire in a town, it was from house to house, forget it. So there was a person that had this whole huge factory. And they saw that it's inching up. And he's going to be losing this whole factory. So someone came and he says, listen, I'll buy it all for 50% right now in this matziv. He says, no, I'm not selling it. It got closer. And it was really bad matziv. So that same person gave an offer. He said, I'm not going to give you 50. Look where it's up to, but for 30%, I'll give you cash right now. He says, no. And it was like a house away, and he says, I'll give you 10%. He says, no. And then they managed to get the fire out, and everybody was like, wow, look, the guy didn't sell it. He just gained 100% of his business back. And the Riskrov heard it, and the Riskrov said, no, that was a stupid move. As a nar, he said, like in Yiddish, he did you don't do that. It's stupid. Anar, how do you say it in Yiddish? It's a Yiddish saying. Like you did something very, very stupid, and it worked. It worked for you, but it's still a stupidity. It's still a stupidity. It goes back to that shloimi that you mentioned before, that the person's friend that did something stupid. You never follow something stupid, even if that person was successful. It's very childish. It's childish to do that. Now, when a person doesn't have the money, he could be sure that Hashem said no. You could be sure Hashem said no. And if you decided to take the risk when Hashem says no, ain't going to be very pleasant. How could you be sure? People say you have to take certain risks in life. Well, of course it depends what the risk is. A small little risk, which even if it happens, there's a way out of it. That's the klal. Even if it's only 5%, but you have to have a plan for that 5%. That's the klal advarim. I was once, years ago, I was listening to two people arguing, and he says, "No, I'm not going to take money from you." And I made cheshbonis, and I saw there's going to be no deficit. He says, "But I want to have your plan if there is a deficit." So those people, if it's a kind of deficit, even if it happens, there's still a way out. There's still a way out. Then you could think about it. But most of the times that people do such things, if you ask an older person that has yeshiva das and that saw things in life, it's very hard to get out a few $100,000 chayvus. Forget about a few $1 million. If it goes sour, there's no derech hateva to go away. Nisim, but Nisim Hashem does for people that are royal in Nisim. And you could spend 30, 40 years of your life being busy trying to make those Nisim happen. So that's the third of the regime of the mistakes, because you're relying. The bottom line is you're relying on that. Now, there's the fourth, we mentioned it, the fourth of the list of mistakes is because you're not allowed to borrow money if you don't know how you're going to pay it back. And this is not called knowing how to pay it back. But besides all of the above, you're not allowed to borrow money if you don't know how you're going to pay it back. And you can't play around with the rules of the Torah. And who you're fooling, because you want so badly, it doesn't mean the chances are so strong, because your rotzen is so strong. A person has a very stark rotzen that he wants it to be that way. It doesn't mean it is that way. So that's another reason why a person does Aveda. It's an Aveda. So you don't have Siyata D'Shmaya. You don't have Siyata D'Shmaya. You're on the way down. So it should have been maybe first on the list before all the other cheshbonis. You can't do such things. It has to be a derech ha'olam. It's not a derech ha'olam to do wild things. Is not a derech ha'olam. You could see in the banks when they want to give a mortgage and they ask for a bunch of papers. They want to see what's your income. They want to see how many years you have. This now all these smart Alex. They say, listen, it's the bank. So there's people they're going to get you all these papers. But the concept of it is that you're not supposed to be doing something that you have no way of paying back. Hashem doesn't work with all these under the table things. It doesn't work. Besides lying and stealing and all that, I'm not going into that. It's just that if the Seder Olam says that you can't drive if you're 16, most states, you can't get a license. You can't take out certain cars under 21, even if you have a license. There's something behind it. Yeah, you can't take out a mortgage if you're a little. you can't do that. Now, if you figure out a way that it should be b'derech ha'olam, we'll talk. But if it's not a derech ha'olam, then it goes in b'geder avera. If a person does an avera, don't be surprised if that's going to be the results. The results are going to be like by doing an avera.
Even if the person's doing l'shem shamayim to marry off his daughter.
There's no l'shem shamayim. There's no l'shem shamayim for tzedakah, for marrying off his daughter. There's no l'shem shamayim, period. Because you cannot do an avera and say that I'm doing a l'shem shamayim. It doesn't work that way. All those people that crossed those kind of lines, it's very unpleasant. And it's hard in the beginning. Right in the beginning, a person wants to see themselves out of their rut. And they don't want to rely on Hashem. They want to rather do something about it because they feel so stuck. But that's the Torah. The Torah is, and it pays. A person that goes the right way, he's going to thank Hashem from the depth of his heart for going the right way. So these are some of the mahalchim. Why this is such a bad. One more of the list of why it's a mistake. The parnassa that a person is supposed to choose is a parnassa of doing something for the bria. That means you're doing something. You're helping people. You could be selling computers. You could be anything, right? Anything if you're selling, but you're doing something for the bria. Now, many times, let's say real estate. Real estate sometimes, if it comes from a good place, then a person people need to have where to live, where to build their businesses and whatever it is. So they're doing it, they're buying off property, they're understanding where there's yacht, where there's opportunities. That's how it works. Which area right now is it's low, but people are moving towards that area. So it's a chush, it's a umnus. It has in it it's an art to have the feeling for it, to understand. You have to understand. You can't. If you went into the field yesterday, then there's a lot of dimyan. But it's just explaining that real estate could be I say art is not the right word for umnus. A trade. Pshat is you learned how to do something, and you have the understanding to it. And slowly, even playing an instrument, umnus, the literal taich of the word means that in the beginning, the fingers are not used to doing it. And once you learn how to do it, your fingers just do it on their own, because you just have it. It becomes part of the osmosis. It becomes part of the you understand it. Any umnus is like that. A sofer that writes, in the beginning, he says, how am I going to do it? But once you learn the trade, you learn it, so it just comes because you think like that, you feel like that. You even saying a shir works the same way. In the beginning, a person's like, how am I gonna prepare? What, it takes a week to prepare every shir? So now you the maximum shiurim is 50 a year to be able to get but slowly you go into the field and you don't feel anymore that it strains you. That's how umnus works. Real estate could also be like that if it's done the right way. You learn it, you enjoy the information, you connect to the chokhmah of it. There's chokhmah. The chokhmah is never flipping and making $100,000 just because I bought it and the next day I sold it. That's not the chokhmah. That's not a umnus. There's no such a concept that's what I do. You're supposed to be doing something that has a chokhmah to it, a profession to it. And you're supposed to be gaining, the brain has to be, no. Which things on all the words. A little child's brain always has to be not developed. You have to give it food, like stimulated. The mind has to be stimulated from the profession. I needed to say the word because that's the havon, that's the understanding. You're doing something. So a person is building. He says, "I built well. It's good. I like to do it better." That's called you're building your nefesh. You're building the world and anything. You can make nice money. Beautiful curtains that you're selling, and you like to do that with the colors, whatever you like, whatever you enjoy to do. But you're stimulated from the job itself. This kind of life that a young man wants to make money, he says, I don't care what. You make money? Quick. You make money? He's thinking about the money. You're doing the money. It's a mistake in the essence of it. It's nothing. Even if you're not doing an Aveda. Even if right now you have the money for it. Let's say you have the money to do it, but what are you doing? You're not doing anything. You're trying to just do dry, you're doing this and that. You're trying to make money. You can't make money here. You could turn into a person that does things, that you're doing something for the Bria. So all the people that they want to invest money, because they want to buy of a certain business, they're going with the wrong mahalach, because it's you're not doing anything. Stocks is the same way. That's why people, even if a short term, it could be a year, short term could be 5 years, that they're playing with stocks. But it ruins the person and ruins their money. It's not something that's made for 99% of people. There's only a certain amount, a certain limited type of playing with stocks that could be healthy. Also, you have the money fit. And even if you lose everything, nothing's going to happen. That's Aleph. That's like what we mentioned before. But also that you see opportunities and something that people need, investors need to come in. A person told me the other day about a certain medical new idea, new technology, which if it takes off, it's a very, very big service for the world. Extremely. It's going to be Negeya for he doesn't let me say what. Everybody's going to need it. That's how simple it is. And he wants to come in. Okay, so he has the money. The person, that's how it always works with investors. Someone he just needs the last push. He says a year or two and he's done, and the FDA already they didn't approve it yet, but there's no reason they shouldn't. That's what the advisors say, all those things. But it could make sense. It has to be in a mahalach that it makes sense. You have the money. Look, Hashem gave you the money. You have the money sitting. You're allowed to invest. You're allowed to double your money. There's nothing wrong. But what are you doing? It has an understanding. It has a service for the Bria. So then it's called you're doing something. So that's the fifth nakuda. You have to be doing something and not being busy making money. You have to learning some kind of trade that has a chokhmah that stimulates the brain mitzad what you're doing, that you're doing something for the Bria. So what does a person do? These were all the mistakes. The same way that you said about someone who says his friend Shlomi borrowed $1 million and he put it in, and within a year or what, he had $7 million he made. What is the real mahalach? The real mahalach, if you look around, there are many, many famous, wealthy people in the Charedische world. They should be gesund and stark. That the friends, talk to their friends, you'll see that how they start off. Many of them. How they start off, they had a low salary and they came as a worker. Simple worker. We said, yeah, but you're not going to get anywhere. I want to take a job with a future. There's no future here. That's if you're looking b'derech hateva. A person's allowed to see pros and cons, but I want you to know that the Chavis Elvovis is explaining to the person, if you are going to follow everything that it says in the Sefer, you'll never lose out. Now, it could be, it's not bashert for you to be a wealthy person. Take it into cheshbon. We didn't mention that. It should have been the sixth nakuda. That it's not possible to become a very rich person only if it was decided. So if you're doing crazy things for that, you might be doing something so stupid. Do something very simple. If you are supposed to become a oisher, you will. You will become an oisher. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, it's going to happen. It will happen. Many of these rich people, they went in as a simple worker and salary, and right now they're 50% partner with I don't want to say the name of the. They're 50% partner, and mamash millions and millions and millions. You know how many people are like that? And the young person is looking at them right now. There's 63. Right now, the Baruch Hashem. So he says, I want to jump to that. You can't jump. You cannot jump there. Now, if a person is going to follow the rules, things start moving around. You're not being boteach in what you're doing. It's true. Right now, you're a simple worker, but you don't see any future. The money is not going to come from the future. The money is going to come some kind of way. A person is ehrlich, a person is davening to Hashem. They make sure that they're utilizing their time. They make sure that they're doing everything. They're looking again in the book. Every time in the Chavis Havavos, if they're following orders. And then whatever their potential is, they'll reach their potential. That's the nakuda. By doing the right thing, you reach your potential. By running around, you're forgetting that you have a potential. You think you could schlep the money from somewhere. That's not possible. Now the Chovos HaLevavos comes and says, if you want to choose the job and you want to see what you should go in, find yourself what you enjoy doing, even if a person wouldn't pay you at all. What do you like to do? One of the simanim a person could use to figure that out is, even if you don't get paid, if Hashem wants you to do something that you enjoy, because He wants it to become part of you. Something that a person does not enjoy will never ever become part of the person. It's not going to make the person into a noise, and they will never do it good, and nothing's going to happen. It's not going to build the person. Even in the field of chinuch, many people in the field of chinuch feel that they need to do it because they need the dollar, they need to feel they're getting paid, and they feel maybe in their age they can't find another job or whatever it is. But they feel that's the hard part of my day. The part that I least enjoy is I don't have nerve for little children. I can't take it. But listen, you gotta do. The little that I bring in, it's bad enough the way it is. So I gotta do it. It's a very big mistake. If they're meant for it, they're supposed to be. They have to set aside time to figure out how to transform through the job. Hashem wants us to transform from any job. It makes the person a better person. The information goes in, the being a noise, and all it connects. It becomes part of the person. If you don't enjoy it, talk to Hashem, figure something out.
I heard someone once say, he says, you should go into a job you don't enjoy because then you won't get caught up in it. You won't be workaholic. You'll do your time, then you'll run to learn Torah, and you'll get your sipuk from Torah, and not from your job.
I don't believe that person learned Chovos HaLevavos. He says you should take a job that you don't enjoy so you're not get caught up. It could be a nisoin of getting caught up in a job. We know that. Workaholic, it's a thing that people struggle with. So then they have to learn other parts of the Chovos HaLevavos, which he explains it well. But if a person has savlonos and does it the right way, it's fascinating how successful people could be, and how much pain and heartache we could eliminate by following the rules. It's crazy how many people ruin their life and their shalom bayis and their family because they didn't learn the rules. So they were running around, and then by the time they figured out something is wrong, it was bad. They already really, really messed up. And Hashem could help anybody. But let's help the new generation. Let's do it like atchila the right way. There's a Torah, there's a Chovos HaLevavos, there are rules, and don't bend them. You're not going to get anywhere. If you feel you didn't find anything, so there's a rule for that as well. What to do if so far you didn't find anything. But slowly we need to get used to that there's certain things you don't do no matter what. No matter what, you don't do it. It's not on the list at all. No matter how many people tell you or try to persuade, and a lot of how many times, we didn't even mention it, how many times the person that's advising you to do it is getting a percent from the other and he's pushing you to ruin your life because he's having a small gain. How many times? It's very, very sad. But don't listen. People have negiyas. Let's learn Torah's emes, and it always works. I just spoke to a person that really, really mastered Chovos HaLevavos Sha'ar B'Tochen, and this topic the most. This topic of what job, how job, he mastered. He told me he has a whole family of children, married children. They all work. It is every single one of them, when they got married, I went with them and trained them. This you can't do. Look, I'll explain to you why. This you can do. I'll explain to you why. This you could look into. He says now, it's 10 years later, every single one of them, Hashem should bench them, every single one of them have beautiful Parnassa. They're not the biggest Gevirim in the world. That's not the plan. Every single one has beautiful Parnassa, and they have Shalom Bayis, and they're home with their children by supper, and they're not missing $1. Why? Because I follow the rules. I follow the rules. It's so important to say that. The Torah works. But the Eibusher should help. We need to get into details one day, but it's shiurim to help. So we're going to need some live questions to be able to really work it out, because it's a mitzvah gedoyle, mamash a mitzvah gedoyle. Okay. She has been...